gentleman was asking me, he said, how do you get over worrying about the past or worrying about the future? And I just kind of right out of my mouth came live in the present, which got a laugh, kind of sounded sarcastic, but the more you think about it, you can't control what's happened. You can't control what's going to happen. You can only control where you are now. Now, certainly setting objectives and everything is wise because that gives you a blueprint and a path. But as far as misconceptions about health, that's part of that same thing, because everybody's worried, if I do this or I don't do this, what's going to happen here in the future? Or when I was back here, I did this and I did that. And I stop people and I go, hold on, we're not going to be able to go back and change that. We can only deal with now. We don't really know what's going to happen next. So the wisest decision we can make in the moment, in the present, is what can we do to give us the greatest ability to adapt to whatever can occur, and stop worrying about what the possibilities are and more look at what's the possibility and what is the ability to adapt for your own body. And that's in physical health, because that same idea that we take that old definition of health as a state of wholeness, where you're going to have 100% parts and 100% function in order to have health. Again, it's not about sickness and disease. It's not about feeling good and feeling bad. It's about being able to adapt to the circumstances that come in such a way that you are going to be able to keep going. So it's getting past that misconception, and that applies to all things. We measure the success of our business based on, with our employees, and we have these KPIs, they call them. And we look and we go, oh, the statistics say, and the statistics were down this week, we must be doing bad. Or no, what is your average? Is it going up and down? Is it going on normal sine wave and flows, and sometimes it's up and sometimes it's bad? And we can look and say that was Black Friday, and we can look and say, this was Lent when people stopped eating meat, and maybe that's why the meat sales went down, or different little environmental factors to which you have no control. In the end, it's, are you keeping your business viable and adaptable, so no matter what comes in the market, you're be able to look at it and you're going to be able to adapt and pivot and keep to your mission and vision and still provide the service that's in there. Because when you read stuff like Jim Collins' books, where he talks about and Built to Last, these businesses, he's talking about the reasons a lot of them last is because they were able to stick to what they believed. They had a great big vision, and when the market changed, they were able to either hold on and keep to where they are and keep their niche really well, or they were able to adapt and take advantage of it and grab something and be able to move. But they didn't get so big and lumbering that when stuff changed suddenly, they couldn't survive. A lot of different things you'll read about is that's what happened to Kodak. Kodak became too big. It became, they call it a dinosaur. And they said some of these other things. So that's one of the big things that's gone on with Amazon. Amazon could constantly adapt to the environment. It's finding that it's failing at certain things now, and slowed down from its initial growth. But now it's got to hit that point of maturity. Maybe the governments of the world are going to break that up so that it's smaller creatures, which will actually create its survival. If you look at a lot of ones that have gotten too big and have been split. And then you see that same idea in relationships. We always think if it's not great all the time, if we ever have a day that we fight, if we ever, if it's not going great, is when you kind of, what they say, first break the honeymoon phase. Oh no, it's unhealthy. Everything's bad. No, conflict is usually a part of growth. And usually if you're not going to get some stuff said and some stuff out of the way and come to things, is there stuff that you don't like about your partner? Probably. But you also go, yeah, but that's who they are, and I love them for who they are. Not despite this, not because of this, but simply I can just love and accept them for who they are. And that tends to be the long-lasting relationships, the good and the bad. Are there days where certainly you probably say, I'm going to go take a couple days away? Or is it nice to be able to go to work and not spend 24 hours with somebody? I think when the pandemic was going on and people were spending 24 hours together, you saw a lot of strain, because some people are not used to having all these things constantly all the time. You also, some relationships became very strong in that because they had to deal with it in order to keep the relationships going. And then that comes down to communication. So going back to this idea of living in the present and being adaptable, there's also a lot of communication. Businesses that survive communicate with the greater environment. Relationships that survive communicate with each other, whether that's between spouses, whether that's between parents and children, whether that's between, an employer and employee. And then in your body, as a chiropractor, we're always looking at making sure the brain is able to communicate and keep the parts all communicating in harmony so that they're constantly adapting to the environment, because the environment's never going to stop. And you can look at that in every aspect of life. But yeah, one of the biggest misconceptions about health that I feel that people could understand is health is present, and health is ups and downs, and it's good and bad, and it's in and out. But as long as the communication's there and you're seeing a constant adaptability and change and going forward, then you're healthy.